Good afternoon. It's Monday, April 13th, and this is the Hammer Daily presented by FandDuel, normally hosted by Jason Cooper. Today, you're stuck with me, George Sulfides, G-Stack George. We got a lot to talk about on today's show, including some best bets in the Champions League. We'll also talk some NFL draft and GM tendencies, and also one mispriced draft future that we'll talk about in about 10 minutes' time. So stay tuned for that. It's over 30-1. So you are going to want to be here for that. I won't be alone today. I have producer Mike Bennett keeping me on track today. If I do say so myself, Friday's show where I hosted was great. Shout out to Andrew Gambas, who nailed so many of the fights of UFC 327. Before we start today's show, though, I got to say, it was a great sports weekend. I'm not just talking about the Masters, and I know a lot of you guys were on the couch Sunday eating it up as Rory and had a pack of challengers chasing him down. Scotty Scheffler got hot. I got a little emotional. I was watching. I didn't watch the game. I'm not a hockey fan, but I was watching the social media, and I think this is how we all experience things nowadays, is through clips. The Penguins and the Capitals this weekend, and I know that Evgeny Malkin was over at Ovechkin's house and their kids were playing, and they were, of course, drafted in the same year. The opening draw, Dylan Strome got himself kicked out so that Ovechkin could take the draw with Crosby. And I'm like, how can you not be romantic about hockey, right? Like, these two guys have basically been toe-to-toe their whole career. Ovechkin, first overall pick in 2004. Crosby went first overall pick the next year. But if you remember, because of the lockout in the NHL 2004 season, it killed the entire year. So Ovi and Crosby started their career in the same year. I was thinking about what was life like in 2006, the year they were in the 05-06 season. And I was thinking, what was it like in sports? The Stanley Cup. Carolina won the cup. They beat Edmonton, if you remember, who had Chris Pronger for one season. I love Chris Pronger. He's easily my favorite defenseman I ever watched. Then he left to Anaheim and started like their little mini run with Scott Niedermayer. In the NBA, the Miami Heat beat Dallas. It was the Shaq, Dwayne Wade Heat, but they also had like Alonzo Mourning, and Gary Payton finally won a ring, and Antoine Walker and White Chocolate Jason Williams. That was a fun team. The Steelers beat the Seahawks in 2006 Super Bowl. It was the Jerome Bettis final game in his hometown of Detroit, and the officiating was very questionable. Seahawks fans are still mad about that. I don't remember the MLB series. I know the Cardinals beat the Tigers. I don't actually have a recollection of that, but I do remember soccer. Italy beat France in the World Cup final that year, and I remember that very vividly because that was the Zidane headbutt game, and he got the red card in extra time and wasn't there for the penalty shootout. That's me walking down memory lane. Got so much to do. We're going to have Clev on in just a second, but what a success our Masters extravaganza was last week. Huge viewership, incredible engagement. We even cashed a massive 50-1 bet on the Rory Scotty Scheffler dual forecast. If you enjoyed that and all of our special programming, you're in for a treat this week. This Wednesday, Jacob takes over the Hammer Daily with a special NBA mini extravaganza to get you fully prepped for the playoffs. We're bringing on a lineup of sharp basketball bettors and originators to break it all down. Series prices, futures, MVP markets, lots of picks, lots of action. And then on Friday, Alex does the same with an Edgework style mini extravaganza. Top hockey better running the show, delivering insights and best bets just in time for the playoffs. Both shows go live at the usual time, 12 o'clock Eastern, so make sure to lock it into your schedule now. That being said, joining me now, we do a lot of content, a lot of football content. We talk football nearly every day. Mr. Clev TA, you can find his work at clevanalytics.com. Clev, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, George. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm going to assume, Clev, your Sunday was spent a lot of hours watching the Masters. What was your favorite moments of this year's Masters? Were you sweating anything last night?
Well, let me just preface this by saying, so I've got two young kids and I'm married, and normally I go to all the birthday parties that they get invited to with my wife. It's kind of typical. And so we got a last minute invite last week My
Oh,
wife, oh, there's a party at this indoor playground between 4 and 6 on Sunday. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, 4 and 6. I go, she's like, well, what's the problem? I said, I don't know if I can go. And she's like, what are you talking about? It's not football season. Like, what could you possibly have between 4 and 6? And I said, well, it's the end of the Masters. And she's not a big sports person, so, she understands my love of football and all that. But she's like, what are you who cares? And I said, all right, you just don't understand. Like, this is maybe the only other event outside of, the playoffs or NFL playoffs or Super Bowl that I just can't miss. It could have been 12-2. It could have been 2-4, maybe 4-6. I said, there's no way. So,
yeah.
She's like, well, you're taking the kids next time in a couple of weeks for their next birthday party solo. I said, all right, that's a good deal. So anyway, I got out of it. She wasn't happy, is what it is. But yeah, I honestly didn't have a ton of sweats. So my I guess my horses from the top of the market was really, Xander Schauffele and John Rahm, and I had Jason Day and Patrick Reed as well. Those guys never really had a true shot. So I didn't sweat the to win markets, but I did. My largest exposures were Xander Schauffele top 10, top 20, and then Patrick Reed top 20. We message each other, and I've been tweeting about Patrick Reed top 20 at the Masters can feed families at this point. I mean, he's just automatic, and he's being priced like a guy who you wouldn't expect. I mean, I got plus money from a top 20 perspective for Reed, and he's just always there. He's never truly, I mean, he obviously won it a handful of years ago, but is never truly like a full contender for all 4 rounds, but is always lurking in that top 10, 15 area. So, that was my largest exposure. And same thing with Xander Schauffele. He, not a guy that has contended lately at the Masters, but is always kind of, fringe top 10 and then makes a push in the back 9 on Sunday to get there. So those were my biggest bets.
No, absolutely. And then Justin Rose always shows up for some reason at he's at the majors. He's like, all right, let's just channel all my good golf into these big tournaments.
Well, that's what's so great about the Masters is I hate to call it the most predictable event in golf, but it's just because it's the only tournament that that major that is at the same venue every single year.
Yep.
Being a veteran, understanding the nuances of the course is such an advantage over guys that, are playing for the first time or are just still relatively young, and that's why Justin Rose, and again, a guy like Patrick Reed and Rory and all these guys you see at the top every single year, it's because you can stray off of the tee like Rory did on 18, but understand, okay, I think I can get it to this spot where it'll keep me out of major trouble. And, obviously if you're skilled enough to hook a ball over a tree like he did, you can do that. But just understanding when to go for it, when to, where on the green you want to chip onto, all those sorts of things is such a big advantage. And so you see a lot of the same guys inside the top 10 and 20 every single year. And it really makes, for me, having those top 10 and 20 options can really be profitable because it's literally the same guys every year. Hideki Matsuyama is another one who just litters the top 20 every single year. It's like those guys are automatic. He never misses a cut there. And so you see a lot of those guys kind of lurking every single year.
Yeah, and it's also you know where to miss. My favorite stat was after the first 2 rounds, the bottom 2 golfers in driving accuracy was the guy who was dead last and Rory McIlroy, because he just knew where to miss. He also bombed out his last 3 tournaments and said, let's play only this Masters course. And I wonder if there will be some copycats next year. Cleve, you were talking about tendencies, right? And it kind of segues into our UFFL discussion, because I've been reading your draft guide, and you do a really good job of saying, listen, there's GMs now, we have years of data of what they like and what they prefer, and you can kind of pinpoint what they're and then you see mock drafts are doing stuff out of the norm, and I'm like, this GM doesn't do moves like that. Let's talk about those tendencies, and let's start with Cleveland. You've had the Andrew Barry experience for many years now. They own 2 of the picks in the first round, the 6th overall pick and the 24th overall pick. They need a wide receiver and an offensive tackle, probably their two biggest immediate needs, unless you think edge is a eventual need, but we'll talk about that. Do you want to see them go OT first and then wide receiver, or wide receiver first and then go OT at 24?
So, I mean, history tells you go OT first because those guys get pushed up. They're a rare commodity. If you go back, and again, I know Pro Bowl is not a great metric to use these days, but it's a metric that kind of can filter out some of the better players at each position, obviously. And there is no position that has a higher rate of Pro Bowlers inside the top 20 or just first round than tackle versus all other positions. I mean, you look at receiver, and it's one of the lowest rates in the first round. You get as many receivers who become really good starters or Pro Bowlers outside of round one than you do in round one specifically. So, and this year we don't have any of those, elite Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Jamar Chase types that are just, fit the bill, younger, explosive, big. Like, you don't have that at the top of the board. I like Cardell Tate. He's an Ohio State guy. I think he's got kind of a Terry McLaurin type of comp when it comes to, I think, NFL production. He's a little bit bigger. Yeah. But just in terms of like where I see his upside, I think he's a really, really good number 2, maybe low end number 1 in that range, which you can justify, taking a top 10. But, it does come with some risk. And then you got guys like Mekhi Lemon and, smaller, compact, kind of a, you didn't see a lot of athleticism. He's more of an after the catch guy, could break tackles. Had some weird interviews. I understand. It was kind of strange at the combine if you saw him, like how he answered some of those questions. Not sure what was going on there. So his personality could be an issue. But him and then Jordan Tyson with the injuries are major risks. So I'm not sure I'm in love with any of those guys at 6. So I think I would go tackle first and then you can find good receivers. One of them, I mean, Tyson might drop to 24. It's possible. I don't think Tate or Lemon will be there, but also guys like Omar Cooper and maybe Denzel Boss and Casey Concepcion. There are good receivers out there. So long story short, I think ideally Browns want to trade back, pick up, if you could pick up a second or even a third, take a little bit less than what the value chart says, drop down a handful of spots and still get that Monroe Freeling at left tackle potentially, or even Caden Proctor, and then still get your receiver at 24. I think that's the route they want to go. Not sure, they're going to find any takers. You need somebody to drop to them. But for me personally, that would be my route, is go, tackle first and then wide receiver later, just because I think the combination of the two will be better served that way.
Okay, so let's talk about it, because the assumption is the only real players worth trading up for is because of the way the pass rushers are this year, where it's like there's clearly 3 guys who are a tier above. And then there's like, pick your warts. Do you like Messidor being 25 years old? Do you like Cassius Howell's short arms? Do you like unproductive players that have good athletic traits? So it becomes a case of like, having to compromise on what you get as an edge rusher. So a team like Dallas or Kansas City that maybe wants an edge and they're picking 9th and 12th overall, you would need one of the 3 defensive ends to fall to 6, right, Cleve?
Yeah, I think so. Although with Dallas, I mean, they could fall in love with Caleb Downs or Sonny Styles too. I mean, I can see that as a potential as well. But yeah, this this goes back to some of the traits we talked about. Like Dallas, 6 straight years in the first round, they've drafted a guy who's under 22 years old, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that's some of this stuff could be coincidental, but seems like they do have a type that like that young, athletic, high upside player. And so a guy like Sonny Styles would certainly fit. Caleb Downs, we didn't get any measurables from him. Doesn't seem like he's not really the most athletic. He's just a really smart, solid player, great tackler. But I do think Styles, or like I said, one of the edges, if we see a Reese or a Bailey drop to them, I don't think at this point they're going to need to trade up for Ruben Bain. He may just fall to them. I'm not sure. But I do think, there's a possibility that one of those guys could drop to them and drop to the Browns position and have Dallas move up. But we'll see. I mean, I think David Bailey's an interesting case, because I do think if the Browns are going to trade Myles Garrett, and there's, they opened that possibility up when they pushed back his bonus a few weeks ago, they could take David Bailey too at 6. Like, that's a possibility. And so, I wasn't sure we are going to bring it up or not, but one, draft odds that I saw that I thought was interesting on FanDuel, you can get David Bailey at pick 6, 40-1. And obviously the probability is low that he'll drop to that point. But I think either you have the Browns potentially saying, like, look, we may trade Myles Garrett and we're just going to, replace him there, or maybe take best player available. We didn't expect a guy at a premium position like that to drop, so we'll just take him ourselves. Or B, like you said, Dallas comes up and gets the guy that they really want, a Texas Tech guy, obviously, would fit what they're looking for to replace Michael Parsons. And so again, it doesn't matching the pick number more important than matching the team here. You get multiple bites at the apple with the Browns, who I think want to trade back, and then if Bailey were to drop somehow, that could be a possibility at 6. I think at 40-1, it's just a little bit too high here.
Yeah, here's how it goes, Cleve. It's Fernando Mendoza goes first overall. The Jets decide that Arvell Reese is their guy. Cardinals can't find a trade partner and say, you know what, we just take our tackle. That's our biggest need, our right tackle. The Tennessee Titans love Jeremiah Love, and then the Giants, who don't have an edge rush need, don't find a partner and say Sonny Styles is our guy. And now you have the David Bailey run out that gets him to 6th overall. So it's not like you're saying David Bailey going 9th overall. There is a pathway for him to go 6th, and there is a need for either Cleveland to take him or one of the teams to trade up. I had one more before we get you out of here. New Orleans is a fascinating team in the first round. You found a tendency of how maybe they hide their who they're picking.
Yeah, and like I said, you can find all the stuff on my website, where I've again, small samples. This is not like perfect, not true and tried like a guarantee, but it's just there's some fascinating angles here, and one of them was, last year I got a lot of pre-draft visit data from a guy, I can't pronounce his last name, Kent Wyrak, I think is his name. He's got a really good site. You can see like different teams by year and who they had in as a visit. And you can look at top 30 visits. You can break it down by combine, pro day, etc. And one thing I noticed, it was very random, but it was an oddity, is that Mickey Loomis with the Saints has not selected a player in the first round that he officially met with via this tracker since 2015. So you're talking about a decade straight of guys that they end up drafting that they didn't actually meet with publicly. Now, it doesn't mean that behind the scenes they didn't meet with them, or on campus somewhere where it's just not reported, but just from the available data that's out there, it's crazy that, and they've had some high picks. This isn't like end of round 1 all the time. So, last year Calvin Banks went to them at 9, and he was a guy that very few people had mocked. I ended up mocking him as at pick 9 just because they had not met with him, and it was a need. And I just said, like, that is a possibility right there. I got lucky, I think, because it dropped to them, but and again, it's not perfect, but if you look this year, guys like Carnell Tate, Delaney, and Lemon have all met with them publicly. And that got me going, because it's like, those are positions of need, wide receiver and corner. And it's like, do you pass on them on a mock draft just because of this kind of, quirk? Is that something that we can rely on? I'm not sure, but it's just something to keep an eye on going forward, because it's happened for a decade straight. And at some point it's like, maybe they just intentionally do this to hide their, the guys they love.
It's definitely a thing, Cleve. Some people don't want to show their cards. I remember, if you remember, the Vince Young quarterback draft. It was Vince Young, Matt Leinart, and the third one was Jay Cutler, the 3 QBs that went. Denver had Jake Plummer. No one had a quarterback on Denver's radar, even though Jake Plummer was like 30, 31 years old at the time, and they should have been looking long-term. They never met with Jay Cutler. They never went to his pro day. They had the most hidden scouting process on him, so that nobody could see them coming for Jay Cutler.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think that could be part of the strategy. Again, it doesn't mean you can exclude guys they've met, because then if they really like a guy and they didn't think he was going to fall to them, then it's like, well, they got to take him. They're not going to just not take him because they didn't meet with him, or because they did meet with him. But I do think there are some intentions there. They're being hidden. And actually, the other way, I got a message yesterday from someone who said, look, can you look something up for me? Like, how often do guys not meet with anybody publicly and still go in the first round? because that's something that people are trying to put clues together. Hey, this guy has not publicly met with anybody in a top 30 visit. Is that a case to maybe say they're not going to be a first round pick? I actually looked, it's about a third of the first round picks have not met publicly from a top 30 visit standpoint prior to the draft since 2019. So it actually happens a lot more than you would think. And certain teams and GMs actually do it more often. And that's something I have to dig into a little bit. But guys like Brad Holmes, for example, is one. Jason Lick with the Bucks, they actually, they'll draft guys in the first round who have not met with anybody from a top 30 visit standpoint. So, there are ways to slice and dice this data. Again, small samples, limited. A lot of GMs have been turned over, but we're starting to see the ones that have been around for a number of years, these tendencies, and maybe we can use that to our advantage in draft bets or mock drafts, et cetera. So something to keep an eye on and something I want to do more work on. But I definitely think that's a strategy going forward for some of these GMs.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, in some cases, it's just as simple as, hey, we have a lot of data on the top guys and we want to meet with the guys that we don't know, like their film is iffy. They have some
injuries.
Yeah, injuries and medicals. Listen, you can find his draft guide at cleveanalytics.com. Fantastic work, Cleve. I know it's inspiring other people to create their own draft guides with similar information as well. So thank you, my friend. I always appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, George.
That's Cleve TA, cleveanalytics.com. And listen, if you're enjoying the Hammer Daily, it's brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game. And if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home run. They said, George, can you give out home run picks? And I said, FanDuel, I don't have an edge in this market, so I'm just going to give guys from my fantasy team like O'Neal Cruz, Shohei Ohtani, or maybe Bo Bichette if I'm feeling frisky. Are you ready to play your game? Head to FanDuel.com/HammerDaily to get started. That's FanDuel.com/HammerDaily to opt in for daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. 21 plus in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. Call 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or call 1-877-770-7867 in Louisiana. If you enjoyed the segment with Cleve, do me a favor, smash the like button, drop a comment. It helps us in the algorithm. It boosts us. It shows that there's something happening. That always helps. Plus, Cleve will be with us on Wednesday for the Forward Progress live show. We are doing the official Forward Progress first round mock draft. There's 4 of us that will be there, and we are picking on behalf of 2 divisions each. So it will be a fun time. That being said, from one football to some would say the real football, or I call it footy. I'm a snob. I no longer call it soccer like that. Mr. Adrian Drunken Goon joins us, footy originator. My friend, join me on a Forward Progress NFL watch, American football watch along. How are you, Adrian?
How are you?
Good to have you, brother. I'm excited. Before we start, though, I was reminiscing about the year 2006 because Crosby and Ovechkin, that was their rookie year. And I was thinking about the World Cup that year. That was the Zidane headbutt against Italy. The greatness of Zinedine Zidane. Am I crazy to say, like, I know Messi is considered like the greatest of all time, and I was around for Brazilian Ronaldo and Portuguese Ronaldo. To me, Zidane's one of the 5 best players I've ever watched. Am I ranking him too high, or?
No, you're right there. He was amazing to watch, and he translated that into an awesome coaching career as well. So he's up there. I mean, it's pretty close between him and Platini as the best French player ever.
Yes, and you said manage, like this guy won the 3 Champions Leagues, leaves Real when they're struggling, comes back, wins again. But he's been kind of holding out for the France national team job, right? And after this World Cup, he officially it's his team, right?
Yeah, I mean the champs had it for too long. It's time for him to step in and do his magic with France.
Yeah, especially they got so many good young players. The fact that they only have one tournament big major win right now is not enough. That being said, let's talk Champions League. Last week was interesting. Let's start with the first leg, Liverpool versus PSG. Adrian, last year, PSG was like the clear best team in football. They did, like, I guess, the quad, if you consider the French domestic cups. Are they this year they weren't seen as that, and yet they're rounding into form again at the right time. They beat Liverpool 2-0 in the first leg. Are they the best team again in Europe?
According to the odds makers, they're third best behind Arsenal and Bayern. But
now is Arsenal's because of their pathway? Like Arsenal was in the PSG pathway. Do you think PSG would be higher to lift the cup?
I don't think Arsenal's got bigger problems. Let's put it that way.
Yes, they're getting hunted down in all trophy races.
I think PSG's, like you said, they're running into form. Bayern's a formidable opponent down the road, but I think they're ready to be the first team to double up as Champions League winners since who knows when. Was it Milan last one to do it?
I think Real Madrid would be like the last.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, I'm going way too far back.
Yes. Who was that? Ali Dada was the goalie. Was that for the AC Milan runs, or am I thinking?
Duda.
Duda, yeah, okay. I have a little bit of soccer footy knowledge. Okay, let's talk about it. They won 2-0 in the first leg. They're right now minus 800 to advance. Liverpool plus 520 on the three-way market with the tie. Liverpool's plus 140. They're at home for this game. PSG is plus 150 to win the game. Is there anything you like either to advance or in the matchup itself?
Yeah, there's no value to advance. I don't actually have a play on this one, but PSG kind of looked them like a second division side in the first leg, and I think that continues. Liverpool is getting some players back. Isaac played some minutes, and he's probably going to come off the bench in this one. And teenager Rio, really, really good versus Fulham, but that was Fulham, so I don't know if that translates to the same level against PSG. I think it's going to be an open game. PSG is not going to sit back and soak up pressure or anything like that. They will continue to put pressure on Liverpool, and that's the key against Liverpool. Don't let them have the ball. Don't let them have time in possession. I see some goals in this one. The closest I come to was a play on PSG team total over 1.5 minus 112, but I think they advance comfortably and probably win the game as well.
What do you make of Arne Slot's I guess comfort level in the job? Year one, he replaces a legend, wins the league. Then they spend a bunch of money and it's gone bad. Does he survive, or do you think they're looking at maybe a Xavi Alonso as his replacement in waiting?
I thought he'd be gone by now based on performances. He won the league with somebody else's roster. We've seen his influence, and it hasn't been great. I mean, injuries have been an issue as well. But I think Liverpool can do much better on the coaching front if they get rid of him.
All right, let's move on to Atletico Barcelona. Man, Barcelona gets an untimely red, and it buries them. Atletico wins 2-0, leg one in Barcelona. Now, Diego Simeone has been known to park a bus or two, and he's at home with a 2-0 lead in the Champions League. They are minus 320 to advance, though, despite a 2-goal lead and playing at home. So they're the shortest price to advance. Barcelona plus 245 to advance. In the game, Atletico's plus 270. Barcelona's minus 125. That's, of course, the three-way market with the draw. What are you seeing in this matchup here?
Fireworks. I think Barcelona wins the battle but loses the war. Atletico just knows how to manage these situations. They did the reverse in the cup. They won 4-0 at home, and then only lost 3-0 in Barcelona. So they just know what the situation is, and they will do everything to shorten the game, make it dirty. I actually have a couple of plays here.
All right.
I play there will be a red card in the game plus 240 at FanDuel.
I love it.
And I also played over 5.5 cards in the game, around evens. Basically, the last few times they played, we had six cards in the first leg, 10 in the league game a couple of weeks ago when Atletico got a red card and Barca came from behind to win 2-1. And then the first time they played in the cup was 9 cards, and then in the second leg when it was pretty much decided, there were only 4. So I think over 5.5 around even money is a good bet.
Especially Barca's going to have no choice but to open the game up. It's going to be physical. These are the games you love to see when there's a team that's desperate for a result. Man, it makes for some of the best footy.
Absolutely, and the way Barcelona plays with the high line, Atletico is going to get in behind them, and they're a pull down here, pull down there, red card, yellow card. Those things tend to happen when a team is desperate. And last we saw it was Sporting against Bodo, and Sporting kind of made it happen in the rain and came all the way back. But I don't think Barcelona can do this against Atletico in Madrid.
Not that you would give it out as a bet, but do you think this game profiles maybe as an over because of the wide open, the amount of physicality that we might see and the desperation?
Yeah, I looked at that and it leaned that way. I didn't make a play on it, but I think there will be goals. And Atletico plays in 4-3-3, and they have those speedy wingers against Barcelona's. Missing Kubarsi is gonna hurt them as well, and Barcelona going forward, they will get their chances. It's just how many can they get, and the fact that Musso, who's been the backup for Atletico, has been in such great form. The starter is ready to go, but I think they stick with him because he's been so great against them in 2 games in 3 weeks. You play against a backup, chances are you're going to score more, but this is no ordinary backup. So,
all right, all right. This is the game I'm waiting for: Real Madrid and Bayern. The German powerhouse wins leg 1, 2-1 in Spain in a game that was very wide open and could have had more scoring. I am a Harry Kane mark. Obviously, being a Tottenham fan, he is a legend, and I love him forever for giving us too many years, if I'm being honest, Adrian. If he left...
You wanted that one title, huh?
Listen, if he left 2 years earlier, we would be talking about him as an all-time great striker. I think he is an all-time great striker. Bayern Munich minus 1050 to advance right now. Real Madrid plus 630. On the three-way market, Bayern is minus 190. Real Madrid's plus 340. Who do you like in this matchup in Germany?
I think Bayern's is the team to beat. They proved it in the first leg. They didn't even really stress too much, but they surgically scored those 2 goals. Real got that awesome TAA cross into Mbappe to cut it to 2-1, and then they pushed a little at the late stages, but couldn't get the equalizer. Real is still without their starting keeper. Lunen's in there, and I don't rate him that greatly. Central defense partnership from Militao and Rudiger is slow-footed, and having Olise run at you should be a scary proposition. Real Madrid in midfield, they finally got Bellingham into the starting lineup, and this is the best they have at this point. But that being said, they still without Tchouaméni, who's suspended, and their starting keeper, and Huijsen in the back. So it's a 85% Real Madrid lineup here, and going to Munich against a full strength Bayern is no easy task.
Yeah,
I have a play on Bayern -1, -112. The other way to play it would be Bayern team total over 2.5 around evens.
Love it. I think Bayern's going to win the Champions League. I think Harry Kane is going to win the Ballon d'Or, and I am here for all of it, my friend.
He's going to do double, the World Cup and the Champions League?
Yes, you know what? Why not? The year that Tottenham gets relegated, let Harry win everything.
I hope you got a bet on that.
Champions League, World Cup, Ballon d'Or, give him everything.
And Bundesliga, let's throw that in there.
And Bundesliga, yeah, why not? Give him everything. He deserves it. Yeah. All right, last one, Sporting Lisbon versus Arsenal. And, Arsenal, I don't think there's a team in the last 3 years, Adrian, that have won more games in the 90th minute. It makes me sick to my stomach. They do it again. Last week, they pulled off a 1-0 win Arsenal right now is minus 3,000 to advance. Sporting Lisbon plus 1120. This game, of course, is in London. Arsenal on a three-way market minus 240. Sporting Lisbon plus 600. What are you thinking in this game, Adrian?
I'm thinking pass. I have no interest in betting this game. I'm looking forward to the weekend when Arsenal has to play Man City. I think you can't say that they're looking ahead past this game because it's a Champions League quarterfinal, but it's the league that they've bottled for so many years, and they need to get a hold of this narrative of Man City making another comeback. To be frank, Man City is looking awesome. They're 6 points back with a game in hand and the head-to-head. So basically, if they win at the weekend and they win their game in hand, they will be ahead of Arsenal on goal differential. So it's a critical point for Arsenal in the season to get back on track. I think they will play their best 11 here, but I expect some people to drop off early and manage the minutes. They still have a pretty interesting list of injuries with Calafiori, Odegaard, Saka, Timber, and Marino out. So it's not an automatic thing. It would have been much more interesting if they didn't score that late goal in Lisbon. But for now, I think they manage this and get home. I would maybe look at the under, but nothing in this one for me. Sporting's getting their captain Hjulman back from suspension. They have the right back for Sneda banged up, but he should start. Aside from that, just long-term injury. So it's close to best 11 for Sporting, but it's a tall task to go win at Arsenal, especially the way Arsenal has been playing defensively.
Okay, let me see if I'm picking up what you're putting down here, because they have the big game against Man City this weekend. If they win, if they go up 1 or 2-0 in the first half and have all but secured their point, is this a live betting opportunity? Maybe like a second half under. Yep. Arsenal is like kings of wasting time. They're going to want to pull off guys to keep them fresh for the weekend. This could be a live play that we're looking at here.
Yeah, if they go 1-0 and you get a under 275 at the half, yeah, grab that.
Let me ask you a question about Arteta, because I'm going to give him credit. He's probably been the second best manager in the EPL the last 5 years. Obviously, Guardiola is still the best. I mean, like,
in the picture too.
Yeah, and the Klopp not currently active, because I think Klopp is a legend, a fantastic manager. Now they keep bottling, and let's assume that they bottle everything again this year. But he has them always in the race for everything. Do you stick with the manager and hope that he eventually gets it right, or do you try to fire him in the hopes of getting over the hump? But then you have to hire a better manager, and I don't know there is that many great options that are better than him, right?
You know the saying in Toronto, trust the process. Hasn't gotten anybody anywhere, but I would trust the process here.
I'm with you.
Even if they bottle this one.
I have some Arsenal friends and family members who are mad at Arteta, and I'm like, I get it. I'd be frustrated too. Like, I thought of the Tottenham golden era where we didn't win any trophies for 5 years, where we were on top of the world with Pochettino and Harry Kane. And
how good was that compared to now?
Yeah, I'd give me that back any day, Adrian. So sometimes you just have to trust the process. Speaking of Tottenham, they are now in 18th place. It happened West Ham with a big result, 2 points back. Adrian, I'm going to work with under the worst case scenario. Okay, Tottenham goes down. Let's say they get relegated.
I did the dip dive.
Let's talk about it. A top 10 club in the world for value, with a beautiful stadium that hosts boxing fights and wrestling events. What's it going to be? What's the experience like in Champions League? First of all, how many of the players are going to want to leave? And then the other question is, what's the experience? Like, are they the prohibitive favorites to win? Or is it a case of like roster turnover, teams giving you their best shot? You got to play in some field conditions that are not optimal. And then, frankly, there's a physicality in the second division that maybe they're not going to be used to.
So this is nothing we've seen before. It's crazy. Like, their valuation is 800 million, and when Leicester went down in 22-23, their squad was worth 444 million. So this is almost double. Saints that same season were third in value at 397 million. So just to give you a quick picture, when Saints went down, Leicester went down, James Maddison left, Harvey Barnes, Yuri Tillemans, Soyuncu, Daniel Marty, Josi Perez, and Johnny Evans. They all left, right? And they basically took on a bunch of young guys and let them push him back up. So they only had 3 returning starters: FaZe, Dewsbury Hall, and Vardy, who stuck around for the encore. Now, Spurs payroll is 137 million pounds this season, and they need to cut that down. They will have one of those balloon payments from the FA for going down, but they need to cut that down. If you look at their contracts, there's a few expiring contracts. So Colomwani, Palinha, Ben Davies, Betancourt, and Bissouma will probably not be renewed, and that adds up to about a quarter of their payroll. So that's a good thing. With the World Cup coming, I would expect guys that play there to move on. So Romero and Van de Ven are gone. Simons and Kulusevski are probably gone, and then Kudus and Solanke will not play in the World Cup. So they will be different scenarios. Looking position by position, I think they need to hold on to Vicario if he's healthy, because the options behind are not great. Kinski is probably ruined after those champion blunders. We saw it happen with Loris Karic for Liverpool, and he never really got a job back. So I would cut my losses on him. Maybe if I can get 10 million, that would be decent, and try to hold on to Vicario. At the back, like I said, Van de Ven and Romero are probably gone. I think Dragushin is gone as well. He's been fielding offers from Italy even before the relegation situation.
Yeah.
So I think he's gone. If you can hold on to Danso, I would. He's the kind of physical player that can do well in the championship, and his salary is in the 5 million range. So that's probably one to keep. They're thin at right back, so you need to keep Pedro Porro. Whatever that costs you, keep him. At left back, you have 3 options to keep 2 of the younger ones and get rid of. I'm trying to think. Udogi maybe, and keep the other 2. Then in midfield, you're going to lose Simons for sure. Kulusevski is probably gone. So I would opt to keep Bergvall, Gray on Odegaard because they're younger, more value. And then you're probably not going to be able to get rid of Madison because he's got a big contract in another 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
So you can keep him, make him your captain. He can lead. He's got some experience, and he's the type of player that can dominate in the championship. Gallagher, you've given him 5 years contract in the winter. It's going to be hard to offload. So if you keep him, you pay the price, but it gives you some options. If you can offload him and take a little bit of a pay cut or haircut, do it. Pape Sarr is also a player you want to keep. It depends how he does at the World Cup. If you can keep him, he's that midfield engine that can make things work. So onto the strikers. Kudus and Solanke, like I said, they're both in the 9 to 10 million range. You don't want to pay that salary in the championship, so sell them if you can. Get some money back. Keep Tell, because he's the type of guy that he can score 20 in the championship and grow, increase his value. And then Richarlison is interesting because he's only got one more year in the contract. I would keep him, help him with the promotion push, and then you get to the winter break. You see where you're at. Are you making it back to the Premier League? He's entering his last 6 months. You can maybe transfer him at the deadline, or just keep him through the expiration of the contract. So you'll end up with something like Vicario in net, Porro, Danso. You're going to need another center back, Spence at left back, Madison, Bergvall, Gray, Odegaard in midfield, Tell and Richarlison up top. That's a decent lineup for the championship. You can get promotion as long as injuries don't kill you. By selling all those guys like Kinski, Romero, Van der Ven, Dragushin, Udogi, Gallagher, Simons, Kulusevski, Kudus, and Solanke, you can bring in 350 million. And that would be a nice purse to have going into the following season, where you can buy some players. You can even buy some in the winter break, depending on your situation, and make that push for promotion. So with a trim payroll and that kind of money in the bank, you can ensure that if something happens and you don't get promotion right away, you're going to be safe. De Zerbi knew what he signed on for.
Yeah, he committed. He said he's sticking around for relegation. So
yeah, so with that and having all that money, it could actually help his system bring in the players that he needs.
Yes.
So I think that's a good situation to be in.
Yeah. Charles asks, trying to think of the American sports comparison to how poorly managed the Spurs have been the last 2 to 3 years to get to this point.
Montreal Expos in the 90s.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's like a team that is bad and gave away all their first round picks and still don't have any opportunity to get
Toronto
better.
Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I've lived it all. Just start naming all my teams, Adrian. I will say
Miami Dolphins.
So I'm looking at this from like three different perspectives. As a fan, I obviously don't want us to go to the Sky Championship. I don't even want to figure out how to have to watch these games. I don't know what streaming service I'm gonna have to buy.
In Canada, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Be fine. Yeah,
okay.
Football's got him.
Okay. The second
one of the two.
As an anarchist, Adrian, I want us to go down, burn everything down, and rebuild everything because I have not liked our core for a long time. And then the third part of me, the journalist, wants to see what it's like to see a top 10 valuable club
chaos
slumming it in the Sky Championship. So there's like many different perspectives that I want to see. Like, look, Wrexham versus Tottenham on Netflix. That's gonna get 500 million views. That's gonna be an incredible game.
What if they promote and Spurs drop?
That you know what? That would be something else. That would be something. Okay, Adrian, do you have anything in MLS you want to talk about?
Yeah, really quick. So Montreal have fired their coach. Donald's gone now. They haven't bought a player since, I don't know, before I started following MLS. New York Red Bulls went to Miami and got a nice result, and they show they can play. I don't understand this price. New York Red Bulls draw no bet plus 106 in Montreal over Montreal. That's a play.
All right.
And I got a couple more quick ones. New England Columbus under 275 minus 110. New England's been really tight defensively. Columbus have no options up top. Their striker's injured, so I don't see how scoring happens in that game. And finally, one of the teams I kind of fell in love with this year, RSL minus a quarter, minus 118 over struggling San Diego.
All right, beautiful. Four MLS plays.
Only three.
Yeah, three. Lots of UCL discussion and even some EPL. Adrian, thank you so much for your time today, my friend.
Thank you.
That's Adrian, Drunken Goon, footy originator, a man who has ripped my heart open and explained to me how bad it's going to get. I thought we'd be able to keep, half the starters. He's telling me we're going to lose like 80% of our roster and having to rebuild. So that will be fun. You know what was fun? I watched the UFL. I have some thoughts from the weekend. What an interesting league. The teams go for it more often than the NFL. Like they've added the aggression, but they're just not very good. Only in the UFL does getting inside the 5-yard line mean you're just as likely to turn it over as you are to get come away with a touchdown. It is actually an interesting league. The Orlando Storm and Louisville Kings. We had the over. We talked about it last week. Game was lined 38.5 to 39.5, depending where you bet it. 56 points. Game went to overtime. But the overtime was such a bad look. They their process is you start from the 5-yard line. You're basically doing like a penalty shootout with drives from the 5-yard line. You have one play to get into the end zone, and each one counts for 2 points. After 3 each, nobody scored, so they went to an overtime, an additional 4th one. And apparently, if you get 2 defensive penalties, not even on the same drive, within the overtime format, you automatically give up a touchdown. And the game ended with 8 tries, 0 touchdowns, and the Orlando Storm somehow won the game. And man, the fans were furious. Anytime your league gets pressed for the first time and it's bad press, that is a bad look. They talked to the owner, Mike Repole. He said it's been a rule for 3 years. It's never come up. They're going to have to adjust that rule because it was very stupid ending to the game. That being said, from a betting perspective, I was happy. Houston Gamblers, DC Defenders. I had Houston plus 7.5. It never had a chance. DC won 45-7. I will say this. I knew the game was in trouble when DC took their first run for a 60-yard house call. And then Houston drives and Talia Tagovailoa throws a pick 6. And I said, oh, man, this is the last time I ever think that the third QB in the UFL is not that much of a drop-off from the first QB because, man, Talia was bad. And I guess not watching college football, not watching much Maryland, I had no idea he was even like far worse than his brother, but still has all the pick tendencies. Dallas was an interesting game. Columbus looked very good offensively. Todd Haley was coaching because Ted Ginn Jr., their head coach, got a DUI before the game. Todd Haley, you know him from the Chiefs, former offensive coordinator. He's an offensive coordinator for Columbus. They look good under him. They looked a lot more organized, and I wonder if he will be the coach moving forward. And probably the game of the week, Birmingham and St. Louis. We had Battlehawks plus 2.5. Line closed 1.5 at most shops. St. Louis won outright 34-30. Fantastic game. Like literally had it all. Pick sixes from both teams. Goal line stands, massive explosive plays. Hakeem Butler for St. Louis is amazing. He always has been. He's like the big bodied receiver. Has been in the spring leagues for years now. They had a QB switch, St. Louis, that nearly gave me a hernia. St. Louis is leading, and they're interviewing Brandon Silver's mom in the stands. And she's like, yeah, I go to all his games. It's fantastic. It's feel good. Then they pull the guy for Harrison Frost. This guy, Harrison Frost, comes in. First pass is a pick six. And then his third pass was another INT, basically handing Birmingham another touchdown. And I'm like, this is absolutely, I'm going batshit crazy here. I was leading with Brandon Silvers, and this Harrison Frost comes in and like 3 passes and 2 INTs. And then he just like puts together 3 straight offensive touchdown drives, and he looks like a stud. And I'm like, yeah, that's why, Ricky Prohl, that's why you're the head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks. And I am not. But all around, I enjoyed it. 3 rules in the XFL, the UFL, sorry, that I think that the NFL probably should take a look at. When you pass the 50-yard line, you can no longer punt. You have to go for it. So even if you eat a big sack or penalty, you are stuck going for it. I think it creates a lot more exciting offense rather than like punting and pinning a team inside the 5 and having to do the dance all over again. That's something they should consider. The fumble on the 1-yard line happened yesterday. If you fumble on the 1-yard line and it goes through the end zone, you do not turn the ball over. It does not go to the other team for a touchback. You get the ball back where the ball came out, back to the 1-yard line. I think that's a good rule. And 4th and 12, instead of an onside kick, you get 4th and 12 from your own 30. So you have to make a 12-yard first down to keep possession of the ball. I think that's a fascinating rule. But, man, that would probably be too big of an advantage for teams with an elite quarterback like Mahomes. That's like easy work to just convert. So interesting. I'm getting a comment here from John Smith. Have I watched the IFL? It's low-key electric. What is the IFL? Indoor Football League? Is that what it is? Because over the years, I've never watched the Indoor Football League. It's just weird to me, like with the hockey boards, and I don't know if they still have a big the field goal with a big 2 nets to each side. I don't know. I've never got into the Indoor Football League, so. But he says it's electric. Maybe I'll watch it. I remember one time I was, okay, I'm going to admit something about myself. When you drop the remote off the bed or the couch and you're very comfortable and you're like, all right, I guess I'm watching whatever's on TV. It was like 1 a.m. once, and I got stuck watching Australian Football League. I had no money on this. I didn't know any player. I didn't know the rules, but man, it was electric. I was like, you know what? I understand wanting to watch this for 3 hours. This is fun. That being said, this was fun. No more Hammer Dailies for me until the next time Jason gets suspended, which is pretty often. I think Jason is intentionally getting himself suspended when he wants some time off. We gotta investigate what's going on here. Thank you to the audience. You've been amazing. Tomorrow, Alex Meadow hosts. Really looking forward to that. We got 2 mini extravaganzas this week. Wednesday, NBA mini extravaganza hosted by Jacob, getting you ready for the NBA playoffs. Tons of basketball originators. Friday is the Edge Work extravaganza. NHL bets. A lot of people joining. That'll be fun. Hosted by Alex. That's it for us. New episode of Circle Back live at 1:00. We'll redirect you there right after this show ends. And boy, they got a lot to talk about. I saw the topic list and I'm excited. They are all back. Kirk Evans back. Jeff Feinberg back. The team is back. I was in last week. That was a lot of fun. Thanks to Mike Bennett for producing. You kept me on track and I got all your cues. Thank you to our sponsor, FanDuel, and to all of you. Have a great rest of your day.